No intro video. No intro video. We'll do it live. Hey everybody, happy hump day. You can tell by the music, it's Midnight's Edge after dark. What's going on, everybody? I'm, of course, your narrator speed, Mr. Rob Robot Shlomo. With me, as always, Mr. Tom Connors.
Where's that other music coming from?
I don't know. Where is it? There's other music?
For a second, there was a piano. Sure there was.
On today's show!
All right, if it's not that, then it's the acid. Leave me alone.
You brought acid and you didn't share?
There wasn't much.
I think he did a little too much LDS.
Back in college.
Well, anyway, on today's show, soon, CBS and Paramount will be under one roof.
We already knew
that's
that.
happening, people. Yeah, we already knew that. Cinema Blend, or as they call it, Cinema Bland, tries to recast Star Wars with modern actors.
Oh, we really doing
And
that?
I say,
we don't have to.
well, we don't have to. We don't.
Hey, there's real news, Rob.
There's real news.
Well, I finally got some Twitter hate.
Well,
you finally got Twitter hate. I know.
Well, let's see. Like right after we went off the air, Benioff and Weiss, quote unquote, walked away from Star Wars.
They got fired, and you know it.
Oh yeah,
in my opinion.
We got an article that just come out here from Variety that was just. What was that, Rob?
Benioff and Weiss, yeah. Benioff and Weiss. Star Wars movies, no more.
Yeah, well, we also
now officially Kathleen Kennedy is fired. Kathleen Kennedy has officially fired more directors than she's hired.
Well, they're not directors. They could be, but they don't even know what the fuck they're doing. At least they admit that. We got to give them credit. So yeah, there's this whole thing going on with them.
Well, that I think just proves that what we all knew from the beginning, which is that Kathleen Kennedy is not capable of effectively running a movie studio. No. She may be a decent bean counter and stuff for behind the scenes stuff, but you've got to have someone who understands the ins and outs of the business to find that talent you need, because the director is the single most important hire you can do on a movie project.
Yep. And that voice you hear is none other than the anti-trekker hailing from the mighty nation of Kurdistan.
Hey, everybody. Yes, I am a talking piece of crap. So what of it?
And joining us, as always, is your favorite YouTube harpy. Yes. With her favorite accessory. She has an Emmy, an ESPY, a Tony, an Oscar, a BAMI, a BAFTA, a BA, a BH, a PhD, an MBA, an OBE. She's an Earl and OBE, which makes her an earlobe. Miss Mecca Random.
Do I want to be an earlobe?
I
don't know. Weird.
Rob, I need to tell you, get off the pots.
He would be better with it.
It's going to rot your brain.
I think he would be tolerable.
I'm on caffeine.
Oh,
You'll
fuck.
have to call.
We're screwed. We're doomed. I need ice cream.
You'll have to call rescue 911.
We're doomed.
My freaking back hurts now because Andre dropped and had a mini doc on me, and I've been hunched over in the chair for the last hour and a half. We're trying to record as much of it as I can.
I was gonna yell at you, like, how can you physically be in pain? He didn't like drop it on your lap, or you didn't have to pick it up from the table. But I get it, you're hunched over.
Figuratively dropped it up.
Yeah, you worked for a whole hour and a half today. I really feel bad for you.
Yeah, you know that those. You know, hey, I'm on that George Jetson schedule.
10 minutes a week.
Jamie's always killing me.
Oh, that Spacey's a slave driver. I had to push the button. I don't know today.
Get in here.
Jetson, you're fired.
I'm coming to eat dinner at your house this week.
You know, it's funny. The 2 times we've tried to get him stoned, he's never accepted.
Couldn't even get him stoned with Clint Howard.
I have an iron will. That's why.
Just
Well, I'll tell you what, if I ever make it out to Colorado, Mecca, I'll take mine and his. How's that?
All I know is if you ever get a chance to meet Cheech and Chong and you turn it down, Rob, I will slap you in front of them.
That's what I'm waiting
for.
for.
I would be like,
you didn't get high with Eagle Bauer.
I would be like, I have no idea who the fuck you are anymore, and just walk away. There's just one people you can't tell no when it comes to that.
When Tommy Chong got busted for pot possession about 10 years ago, maybe, and he was in prison for a while.
Oh, he didn't go to prison for that. He went to prison because of his son's business, and this guy tricked him into sending a bong to a country that it was, or a state that it was illegal. And it was this big old sting operation. So he went to prison for a year to save his son from like years and years of prison. Because I just wanted to make an example out of Tommy Chong.
Yeah.
I remember Howard called him up. Howard Stern called him up. He said in prison, he said, Tommy, man, let me ask you something. You know, people, it can be pretty rough in prison. How are they treating you on the inside? He goes, hey, Howard, everybody's been great so far. He goes, really? Yeah, everybody's a fan. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, well, that's what he said on stage too. He's like, yeah, he spent a year in prison, man. Everybody's like, he's like, oh, no, don't feel sorry for me, man. It was awesome. Come on. Yeah. I'm Tommy fucking Chong.
Well, yeah, he went to like Martha Stewart jail, you know. They don't really, it wasn't like hard time.
Like,
but even if it was hard, even if it was real prison, the thing is, like you said, he's freaking Tommy Chong. The only way you could be better off and go to prison is to be Danny Trejo.
Right.
You know, that's
or Cheech, you know.
Yeah, pretty much.
Danny Trejo, you know, that he they lock him up and all of a sudden he gets a standing O from the entire cell block. You know, that's,
I don't think anybody would fuck with Danny Trejo. Yeah.
No.
So he could come in bawling like a little baby, and I don't think anybody'd mess with him.
if Danny Trejo, they would drag him in bawling and crying and acting like every prisoner would be like, oh man, you okay, man? What can we do for you? How can we help?
Right.
It would not. Yeah.
Anybody else would be like fresh. And then, Danny Trejo would be like, oh man, what did they do to him?
Riots would start to defend him.
Hey man, you would quit being mean to Danny Trejo. Yeah, man. Shut up, Tommy Chong.
Come on, Tommy. He's hurting. Give him some weed.
Oh, I got to dig it out of my ass, man. All right, we wait.
Hey, man, what was that?
Right next to Christopher Walken's pocket watch.
I had that up my ass.
All right.
So what were you going to say?
Star Wars Inside Game. Star Wars Inside Game of Thrones creators exit and the pressure-facing Lucasfilm exclusive. So they're finally admitting. So the Access Media is finally admitting that all is not well in the Star Wars universe.
Well, let's see. They've already admitted it wasn't making any money with the toys or the parks, right? They've already had to admit that the fans didn't like The Last Jedi legitimately. And now they have to finally admit that KK is cray-cray and needs to go away.
Yes.
All three correct answers. Tom, you've won an all-expense paid trip to Dover, Delaware.
And to be clear, I'm not saying this, and Your Honor, I'm not just saying this because of these guys leaving or getting fired. It's the fact that she hired them in the first place.
Well, yep. I've not watched Game of Thrones since season 1 because I'm one of those. I know a lot of people think I'm stupid for this because dude, it gets so much better. Yeah, but then I got lucky because it got so much worse. But the thing is, I stopped watching at the end of season 1 because they killed Ned Stark. I know that had nothing to do with D&D. That was the George R.R.'s writing, but when I look at this whole thing, and I watched Andre's video on it and stuff, and kind of thinking about this whole separation thing, and some people say, were they fired? Did they quit? Was it because of Netflix? Was it because of the last season of Game of Thrones? I think personally that this was one of those situations where we see in movie after movie where they were about to say, you're fired. And he's like, you can't fire me. We quit. Because on the one hand, Lucasfilm wanted to get rid of him because of the disaster that was the last season of Game of Thrones, but they were looking at how Star Wars is freaking becoming toxic and wanted out anyway because they got this, high-profile Netflix deal to go to. So I think that honestly, both sides were probably looking at the other saying, what are we going to do to get rid of this? So
well, we kind of, I think, rightfully predicted that they were out the door when this Netflix deal got announced.
Right.
Because basically the way Hollywood works is they'll let you save face.
Right. But $200 million, Well,
that was Netflix's fault.
And but here's the thing. Netflix is giving them $200 million. That's fine. And Netflix, people really do not. It's funny because people genuinely don't understand. Netflix is the biggest powerhouse in Hollywood. They are the biggest powerhouse in corporate history. Netflix is ridiculously overfunded, and people don't realize how much money they've got.
Lucasfilm, I'll take $200 to write Star Wars.
The problem that I've heard about Netflix, go ahead, Rob.
I'll probably do a better job for the 200.
Right. But the problem with Netflix is I've heard that, they've got whatever, but I've heard they don't have any saved up capital. I've heard they live like paycheck to paycheck when it comes to paying residuals to the studios and stuff. Mm-hmm. Which is, of course, why they're so high on their own entertainment, because if you watch a Netflix show, that money goes right in their pocket. It doesn't go anywhere else. That's where, the big bucks are for them. But what they're facing, though, is they're going to be losing everything within the next couple of years. And we probably will get into this a little bit more as we go down the line, because HBO Max announced that they're going live, I believe, in March. We now know about the Pecker. What's the other ones yet that are coming in?
Green Lantern. Greg Berlanti's going to do a Green Lantern series.
Well, that's coming up for HBO Max. Yeah, that's later in the day. But I mean, there was another one of the services announced, I thought.
Actually, PlayStation View is having the plug pulled on it.
See, now I think Andre and I were kind of looking at that before. We think Sony's making a bunch of deals with Netflix. Because they moved Comedians and Cars over to Netflix. Because once they moved the Seinfeld show, Comedians and Cars, over to Netflix, that shut down Crackle. And I believe Sony still has a stake in that, and they got a bunch of deals coming. Yeah, and then of course, I think they don't they own the distribution rights to or some part of Seinfeld or some shit too.
They have the Seinfeld distribution.
And then, there's other news that we'll get into the streaming wars later, because HBO Max just announced a bunch of shit, including South Park and Rob's favorite show, Rick and Morty.
We're going to HBO Max, Morty. We're going to with the Game of Thrones guys and they sleeping with their sisters and the midget guy.
I can't watch that show. Mom and Dad said it's got too many boobies and wieners in it.
That's right, Morty. It's got boobies. Nothing wrong with boobies, Morty.
What's funny is
they give life.
You think about Game of Thrones, and I'm not saying, obviously I haven't watched it from season 1. Season 1 was excellent. I know that everybody's saying seasons 2 through 7 were really good. It's really, actually 2 through 6, and I heard 7 was meh and 8 was a disaster. But the funny thing is, imagine what you know about Game of Thrones and trying to pitch that to somebody with a straight face without telling them that it's Game of Thrones. Because you'd say, okay, so I got this great idea. Okay, first, this brother and sister do it, right? That's how we're going to open this up. It's going to be awesome. We're going to bring in the midgets, and then we're going to have this one lady that has like a 20-year-old suckling on her tits. It's going to be freaking awesome. And how do you sell that? Yet that's what we got.
I'd watch that.
Well, yeah,
I don't know about the Game of Thrones bit, but the other part. Yeah, we got $2 from Matt G, sir, coming in like a trooper as always. Woo! Thank you. Speaking of this article, though, kind of getting back on as far as the whole thing, I've heard a lot of commentators and newspapers or, well, websites, whatever you want to call them, say, oh, well, we don't know for sure if they walked away or they got fired. But, of course, obviously they claim they walked away. It's like, you dumb fuckers. They didn't walk away from nothing. They got shit canned, because I'll tell you right now, if they had a contract with Disney and Disney wanted them to fulfill that contract, and that contract was before the big contract with Netflix, Disney be damned if their contract's going to be filled first if they want you to. No, they did not want these people to. And this to me is another sign that Rian Johnson's ass is out the door. But we'll get to that. Rob, why don't we run through this article? It's a long article, but this article takes some shots at Kathleen Kennedy, and it kind of breaks down a lot of the shit we've been saying.
Finally, they're starting to admit that the Empress has no clothes. And in Kathleen Kennedy's case, saying that about a 69-year-old woman, that's probably scary. It's become almost comical. On Monday, Game of Thrones showrunners David Benioff and D.B. Weiss became the latest high-profile talents to part ways with the Star Wars universe before their movies hit theaters. They're part of a revolving door of A-list directors who have found it impossible to realize their visions in a corporate culture that is said to invite little creative independence and argument. They joined the ranks of Josh Trank, Colin Trevorrow, Phil Lord, and Chris Miller, in being summarily dismissed from the Star Wars productions that they were intended to helm. In films of this size and scale of Star Wars, it's not unheard of for productions to run into heated creative disagreements, but the high rate of turnover is raising eyebrows across Hollywood and among the rabid base of fans.
What?
Nice. Yeah.
Rabbit though.
Well, this isn't. We got this covered, folks. This is Variety, guys. This is actually the real news.
Yeah, it is an actual news source.
They're semi-respectable.
Semi.
It's also inspiring questions about the management style of Kathleen Kennedy, the executive tasked with guiding Lucasfilm and with finding fresh ways to expand a galaxy far, far away. It's like if you take a job as a Star Wars director or creator, you're automatically thrown into the Sarlacc pit, and your chances of getting out and making that film are so unlikely, you have to almost become a Jedi Master, says Jeff Bach, a box office analyst with exhibitor relations. Even directors who retained credit for their work experience issues. Rogue One: A Star Wars Story Humber, Gareth Edwards, was essentially replaced by screenwriter Tony Gilroy during the extensive reshoots, although he was ultimately the one credited with directing and the finished product. Have they been watching Midnight's Edge?
Hopefully.
I ghost wrote this article. What does that say? Justin Brawl. That's me.
Don't say you ghost wrote it, because I'm sorry. First of all, you would not be dumb enough to call D&D A-list director.
D&D
fighting with the legends of yore.
They directed one hit show. That does not make.
No, I wouldn't say that. That's true. I would be the other,
especially
directors,
now.
Yeah,
Trevorrow is technically an A-list director, technically.
Right, but I mean, when I think of A-list,
Gordon Miller.
Right. Well, when you think of A-list directors, you think of Scorsese, Spielberg, stuff like that. You don't D&D. No, they are not A-list. They are.
I don't think they've actually directed anything besides the Game of Thrones.
Exactly. They're up and comers at best.
Right, and so we can let Rob get through this real quick.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to derail.
No. This is a really long article, though. But yeah, they recently did just come out, and they may even address that in this article about where these guys basically admitted, we don't know why they gave us the job to begin with. We didn't have no credentials. You know?
Well, when Kennedy and her team pitched these filmmakers on joining the Star Wars family, sources say they were promised some measure of creative control. However, multiple insiders said new ideas were commonly shot down as Kennedy and her team were only looking for people to stick to the company line. If there's disagreements about the direction of the film became too intense, it usually led to the person leaving the project rather than an attempt to find common ground. The Lucasfilm Brain Trust would often turn to new writers such as Lord and Miller before ultimately retreating to the old standbys such as Lawrence Kasdan, the Empire Strikes Back writer who is still seen as a key sounding board on the productions. Even if the lack of an appetite for creative risk isn't to blame, there are questions about whether the abrupt departure of key talents points to a problem in how directors and writers are being vetted and hired. Damn straight. Benioff and Weiss had ambitious plans to take the Star Wars universe in a new direction, one that would exist apart from the Skywalker family that comprised the franchise's centerpiece, 9 films in the series. Okay, that's wrong because he's not in these. He's not in these new movies. He really isn't. The Star Wars period the pair were interested in exploring was how the Jedi came to exist. However, Lucasfilm executives and creators began to see their visions for the films diverge during meetings last summer. News that the pair had signed a massive $250 million production deal with Netflix was a signal to many that they were eager to explore other opportunities. It also brought pressures. When the pact was announced, Netflix said it was aware of the duo's commitments, but insiders say they were also wary of waiting as much as 4 years for them to wrap up work on Star Wars. The streaming service wanted Benioff and Weiss to focus on creating exclusive movies and shows for them, particularly when they looked out at a streaming landscape that is growing ever more competitive with the launch of Disney Plus and HBO Max. Okay. Max. As relations with Benioff and Weiss curdled, the studio had begun taking general meetings with other writers on possible Star Wars pitches. Why do you keep putting Star Wars in quotes? We know what it is. And other
it's not really Star Wars anymore, and I'm a horrible writer.
Star Wars pitches. Yeah, you're right. It isn't Star Wars anymore. It's unclear if these were just sit-downs exploring other related productions in the franchise's cinematic streaming universe. The departure of the two likely sends the studio back to the drawing board, with the future of the series more uncertain than it has been since Disney closed its $4 billion deal for Lucasfilm in December 2012. This December brings J.J. Abrams' Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, and with it, the end of that 9-film series. Abrams has been one of the few directors who has been able to successfully navigate the Lucasfilm landscape. But he has a mega deal with Warner Media that will likely mean he won't be making any more Star Wars films. Ryan Roundhead, you son of a bitch Johnson, who oversaw the more divisive The Last Jedi, was said to get along with Kennedy and has maintained that he had creative freedom, but fans balked at some of his decisions. You're damn straight we did. He had been hired to oversee a separate trilogy of Star Wars films, which remains in development, though it's unclear how far along work is on the production. On the streaming front, in November, Disney Plus will release The Mandalorian, a series about a mysterious bounty hunter that is getting some positive buzz, and the company is prepping a new show centered on Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan Kenobi. Do you think Kathleen Kennedy had a problem and goes, "Must we call it The Mandalorian? I don't like that name. It has the word
the Woman-Dalorian.
We have to call it the Wamandalorian."
No, she was probably brought to it first, and she's like, "What's a Boba Fett?
Boba Fett,
why does it need its own show?
Drink the yogurt in it."
That's just one of those things those fans like. Ugh, they're so toxic.
But if we call it this, then that means we have to pay George. Can you make it its own thing?
All right, who's taking bets that the Mandalorian is a woman?
Doomcock has this theory, and I mean,
they showed who it is, right?
They never showed under the mask in the trailer.
Right. I think it's going to be like that. What is it? Use your fisto or whatever from Solo, where it's gonna be a male voice and everything. Then eventually we're gonna find out it's a chick. I think I'd be willing to bet money on that.
Well, supposedly Pedro Pascal he's the title character, but
right. But you hear Pedro's voice, and Pedro will be under the armor, and then in one episode they'll take off the helmet, and it'll be some chick.
They're gonna Enfys Nester.
Brie Larson.
That's why I was saying. That's what. F the fist or whatever it is.
Yeah, they're just so full of such good ideas over there, aren't they? Okay, let's finish this up. However, Disney was clearly stung by the box office failure of Solo, a Han Solo origin story that led to the high-profile firing of Lord and Miller. In a recent interview with the New York Times, Disney CEO Bob Iger said, I just think that we might have put a little bit too much in the marketplace too fast. Sources at the studio insist that Kennedy's job is secure despite the churn of filmmaking talent. But insiders at the talent agencies believe that top filmmakers may become wary of working on the series, particularly if the end result will be an embarrassing dismissal. Star Wars fans did receive some welcome news when it was revealed that Kevin Feige, the executive credited with guiding the Marvel Cinematic Universe, will work on a standalone Star Wars film. That led to speculation that Feige might be brought in to stabilize Lucasfilm, but insiders say that there are no plans to give him a larger role in that division. Ultimately, analysts say that the Star Wars brand is potent enough to withstand all the behind-the-scenes drama. With the exception of Solo, the movies have blah, 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 blah. With the exception of Solo, the movies haven't just been hits. They've been box office juggernauts with few equals. I'm sure there are fans of Benioff and Weiss who would have loved to see them do something with the Star Wars world. Eric Handler, an analyst with MKM Partners. But are they going to boycott all Star Wars movies because of it? Probably not. It's a lost opportunity. But there are other people down the road who will come into the brand and do something new and exciting. A spokesman for Disney declined to comment, as did a spokesman for Benioff and Weiss. Okay.
Are we through it?
We're through.
Okay.
Discuss.
I got a couple. First of all, the whole thing about D&D towing the company line, you know, which of course, the first thing I think of, yeah, you hire the guys that literally start out a series with a brother and sister screwing, and you're worried about them following the Disney line. But the
wholesome family entertainment.
Yeah. But here's the thing. You don't bring in people like D&D to tow the company line. It would be like saying, hey, we're going to hire Martin Scorsese to make the next Spider-Man film, but you got to make it like a Marvel movie. No, it doesn't work that way. You don't.
I want to make Spider-Man shoot him in the face.
Right. But that's the thing. If you're going to bring in D&D to make a film or a trilogy, you are expecting it to go darker, more adult, and probably rather convoluted and complicated storylines like we've got from Game of Thrones. That's why you would bring them in. And so and this is just a testament to the fact that Kathleen Kennedy, who, and I got to give credit to her, Mr. Miles suggested this in the chat a minute ago, since she got that great award from the Royal Commander or whatever BS over in England. So, and the proper term for a knighted female is a dame. So can we call Kathleen Kennedy now a dame? I think we should do that because, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
that
anyway,
dame has no idea what she's doing.
So that Dame Kennedy, you know, it's just a testament to the fact she doesn't know what the hell she's doing, because you don't bring in someone known for a specific style and then say you got to do it a different style. That's just insanity. You know, and then and then the other thing was that as far as Iger saying too much too fast, that is such a BS save face kind of story. And we've heard that whole thing, the Star Wars fatigue. Everybody knows that's a lie. It has nothing to do with fatigue. If it did, then Marvel would have tanked 10 movies ago.
Right.
It has nothing to do with freaking fatigue. It has to do with the fact that they're putting out, you know, SJW laced political crap instead of awesome stories of good versus evil. And I'll get off my pedestal for a minute.
No, Mecca, you got anything to add to that?
I don't know. It's such a mess over in Star Wars, isn't it? Like, I don't know. I think they were fired. I think they were fired. I think they might have been fired.
Oh, I'm sure they were.
Yeah.
And it happened not too long after that Game of Thrones disaster because, you know, a lot of people were, oh, you know, there's a vocal minority when it comes to Star Wars, There's a vocal minority when it comes to Ghostbusters, But Game of Thrones landed like a nasty fart in an elevator when it came down to it at the end. So, and everybody was going after their throats for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that
they kind of deserve it too.
Right. I'm pretty sure that the axe came down pretty damn quick. Because they were the only ones mentioned in Bob Iger's famous interview from almost a year ago.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
He has not yet mentioned Rian Johnson to my knowledge, unless he's done it recently that I don't know. And Rian Johnson tried to clear up the words that he said that made everybody think he might not have a movie or a franchise or trilogy. I mean,
well, the if. Yeah. Well, he says if. Oh yeah.
Oh, did I say if? I didn't mean if. I meant when or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Just like this whole, Star Wars would take Benioff and Weiss away for 4 years and blah, 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 blah. That's Disney's prerogative. They signed with Disney first.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just go signing other contracts and shit like that in Hollywood and other places and other businesses without, honoring the other ones first.
Well, if they do, they have to pay a shit ton of money for the contract.
Oh yeah, well, that's where I was saying Disney let them go because otherwise Disney be like, no, come here.
It's like, no, we hired you.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, you're not really allowed to quit. That's why even in my original video I said, yeah, they probably had in the best case scenario, they probably had maybe it's best if we part ways, like a mutual agreement or something. But no, Disney, they didn't just go in and quit. Disney wouldn't probably let them.
Pretty Little Light sent us $5, Rob.
Pretty Little Light. Where's my ching? Pretty Little Lights. I am at least looking forward to seeing Bill Burr in The Mandalorian. Did you guys see him in a recent trailer? That was Bill Burr?
I guess so. I didn't see it, but I heard.
Yeah, it's him.
I'm gonna rock the boat. I am not a big Bill Burr fan. Sorry, just no.
Other people did it better, but
I don't care who's in it. What I care about is it going to be good? Mm-hmm. And honestly, I watched the trailer for the first time this morning, and I got to say that while it kind of like the Rise of Skywalker trailer, it looks spectacular, but I don't know jack about what this show's about. All I know is that you got some Boba Fett looking dude, you got an IG-88 looking droid, you got a few other things that look familiar. They look Star Wars. It looks like, now, I don't know if you guys remember this, but there's actually, his ship looks like Nell from Battle Beyond the Stars, just with smaller boobs. And there's I don't know. It just, what's it about? Can somebody tell me what it's actually about?
Other than side characters. It looks like it's about a bunch of side characters.
Right. But then who cares? Unless there's a story, and granted, I am absolutely, counting the days for Disney Plus to go live. I'm absolutely going to watch it. And I'm hoping that it's freaking awesome. But the only thing the trailer shows me is that to Lucasfilm's credit, the quality of the show looks like a freaking epic major motion picture. For this to be a streaming series is impressive, but that's all it shows me.
I'm pretty sure we got it already, but there's some people in the chat who must not have heard. We said Matt G got us $2 earlier too. We did see that one. Unless he sent us another $2 I missed.
I did?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't see another $2, but they must have just missed it when I brought it up. Yeah.
Give him a ka-ching.
Give him a ka-ching. Yeah. All right, we're good to go.
But it's looking like everybody's finally starting to wake up and starting to say, "Hey, wait a minute, maybe people are right about this." Either that, or things have gotten to the point where they no longer fear losing access.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it's not only that. There's only so long you can pretend that there's no money. You can only so long you pretend there's not a problem when you've got 20 directors and creators leaving. As I keep saying, I love Robert Meyer Burnett as much as any man can love a man straight, but I think he's completely wrong when he sticks up for Kathleen Kennedy. She is the problem. She is the core issue. She is used to facilitating directors with grand visions and not having to deal with the every day-to-day story bullshit and this, that, and the other.
The directors for hire.
You need somebody like Kevin Feige, and that's why Kevin Feige couldn't work with certain people. That's because they didn't fit within his overall vision, and that's the problem.
A director like Spielberg can say to Kathleen Kennedy, "Hey, produce my movie." When you reverse the roles, when she has to say to a director, "Hey, direct my movie," we start to see her capacity for decision making.
But that's where where I was saying, like, Kevin Feige, I think a really interesting case study is compare Kevin Feige to Kathleen Kennedy, right? So Kathleen Kennedy seeks out these directors that have
tour directors.
Well, I'm just saying, but she seeks out these people that are.
Well, I was helping you. She goes after the auteur directors,
right? And that have they've made something brilliant with some kind of sense of style or something, and then she comes to me and says, "Okay, I want you to do it my way." Where Kevin Feige looks for directors that have made things that are compatible with the MCU. Like if you look at Taika Waititi's film, his resume prior to doing Thor Ragnarok is clearly a Taika Waititi film. However, it's also clearly an MCU film. So Kevin Feige is looking for people that match the studio. Kathleen Kennedy is just looking for names that she can drop and say, "Isn't this cool? We have this person."
So, well, she's also looking for someone she's also looking for someone that believes in what she believes too.
Except that she hasn't. She's failed miserably at that.
Well, except for Rian Johnson. And that's what I was going to say. That's the best part of this article. It's like the second or third paragraph down, where it basically points out where every director and creative person has had nothing but problems with Kathleen Kennedy, except for the obvious one, her butt boy, who does whatever she wants. Yeah, you. That's right. I'm talking about you, Rian Johnson.
All right, you got another super chat.
Do I need to get my thwacker?
Yeah, you need the thwacker. Yeah, we did get a $5 super chat from Shogun Orta.
Ow!
Shogun Orta, super chat. $5. Netflix paid $225 million. Was it so high because they bought D&D out from Disney? No, I just think that they had to overpay.
Right.
No, D&D were smart, and they got in the Star Wars deal and the Netflix deal before the end of the show.
Netflix is pissing away money left and right, but they don't have to worry about it because they're such a profitable business. The only thing about Netflix where they're being stupid is they're being short-sighted and that they're not building up massive cash reserves as they should be.
But there's hold on. There was an article actually I put up on Twitter about Kathleen Kennedy, and it was from maybe about a year and a half ago. It's from a site called medium.com. Written by I don't know who this written by somebody said Make Star Wars Great Again. It doesn't give a really name. Let me see if this is who wrote this piece. He just goes by the name of Make Star Wars Great Again. So it's pretty much an anonymous piece.
It wasn't Ichibaka.
No, it wasn't. Here, let me share this with the chat. I mean, for the people who are in the chat now, read this, or you can find it on my Twitter thing. I responded to it, but it brings up a lot of great points. You know, picture obviously there of Kathleen Kennedy with her little understudies and her mom jeans. Let me just run through this, okay? I'm going to break this up. This guy brings up a lot of good points. The Last Jedi is not a good film. It is not a good Star Wars film. It's not even a good Star Wars story. But rather than rehash the movie's many failings, I want to provide an answer to this one question. How did this happen? Answer. Kathleen Kennedy has turned Lucasfilm into a naked mole rat colony. When George Lucas sold Lucasfilm to Disney for upwards of $4 billion in 2012, he relinquished control of the franchise that he controlled for almost 40 years. An idea that Lucas would remain as creative advisor was quickly squashed by Lucas himself, saying he would only cause trouble. Ideas for a third trilogy that Lucas had already been planning were completely scrapped. Their future of Star Wars was a blank slate, and Lucasfilm's ship needed a captain. Months earlier, Kathleen Kennedy had already been named co-chair of Lucasfilm by Lucas, and upon the sale to Disney, she was appointed president of Lucasfilm and creative heir to the empire. Kathleen Kennedy has been a successful award-winning producer for over 30 years, starting out as a secretary for Steven Spielberg. She quickly became his trusted collaborator. She's been a producer on iconic films like E.T., Back to the Future, Indiana Jones, and Jurassic Park. She married producer Frank Marshall, with whom she also has a creative partnership with. However, prior to ascending to Lucasfilm presidency, she had been second fiddle to some of the most powerful creative men in Hollywood. Let's not forget that going forward. Lucasfilm is now Kathleen Kennedy's, and everything the studio produces is hers. She is the most powerful woman in Hollywood via San Francisco and is directing the most lucrative franchise in Hollywood.
No, she's not. She's not directing the MCU. Sorry.
No, well, this was, you know, this was like, this is real. Okay. Oh, anyway, work with me here. The Force Awakens was released 3 years after the sale of Lucasfilm to Disney. Things were set in motion quickly. Star Wars veteran Lawrence Kasdan worked on the script. Lawrence Kasdan, incidentally, threw the studio under the bus too, recently.
Yeah, I linked that article and another one from Yahoo saying that they don't have any hope for Star Wars. So.
Anyway, Kasdan worked on the script. Spielberg asked J.J. Abrams was brought in to direct. Kennedy's guidance was there, and the edict that the film's main protagonist be female, but Kennedy was content to set the Lucasfilm machine in motion and oversee its operation. This was not the case with The Last Jedi. Episode 8 is Kathleen Kennedy's film, and she has asserted her full control over the creative direction of Star Wars. More on that later. Okay, naked mole rats are an interesting species. They live in underground colonies. They are the only mammals that exhibit eusociality, like bees and termites, meaning there is one queen who reproduces with 1 to 3 males. No other males or females are allowed to breed, and in fact, they remain infertile due to high stress level hormones caused by the queen stepping on their heads. If any female does become fertile, the queen quickly and viciously dispatches her. The non-breeding females acquire food and maintain tunnels, and the females take care of the queen's young offspring and partake in cooperative grooming. Kathleen Kennedy has become the queen naked mole rat of the Lucasfilm colony. Substitute the idea of breeding and offspring with creative process and producing a film. So who are the males that Queen Kennedy reproduces with? Take a look at this list. J.J. Abrams, Gareth Edwards, Rian Johnson, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, fired. Colin Trevorrow, fired. Ron Howard, Stephen Daldry, rumored. These are all directors so far selected by Queen Kennedy's suitable to mate with and birth Star Wars film. What's missing? With the exception of JJ and Howard, experience is missing. Recently, Ridley Scott commented that Star Wars movies should be created by more experienced directors. And why not? Why not let some of Hollywood's best directors have a crack at Star Wars? Because they are not easily controlled. And as we've seen over the last year, if you don't follow the orders of Queen Kennedy, it's off with your head. Can you name another producer who has parted ways with 2, really 3, directors in the span of a year during filming? It's unprecedented. Lord and Miller were supposedly fired for not keeping to the script. Trevorrow was fired for reportedly being difficult. The reality is they asserted creative control over their films, and Queen Kennedy was having none of that.
Forgot Josh Trank and a few others, yeah.
Well, anyway, continuing on. Rian Johnson, however, followed the Queen's orders to a T. That is why he was rewarded with further breeding opportunities. A new trilogy before The Last Jedi was even released. Also unprecedented. What else do you notice about this list of directors? No women. 6 named directors and not a single woman. Why would Kathleen Kennedy, epitome of feminism and breaking the glass ceiling in Hollywood, not have hired 1, 2, or even all female directors for her female-driven Star Wars trilogy? Because in the Lucasfilm mole rat colony, other females are not allowed to breed. They are restricted to the Lucasfilm story group, where they can nurture and groom Queen Kennedy's babies. The story group is also comprised of appeasers like Leyland Chi and Pablo Hidalgo. There's a name, Mecca. Who has tirelessly...
That son of a bitch. You called me Mecca Trollface. He can go fuck himself.
That's right. Hidalgo has tirelessly defended the Queen and The Last Jedi on Twitter, even though he's fully aware of its failings. It's hard to imagine, after reading his defenses, that Pablo, upon reading the Leia flying through space scene, is the type of man that would have stood up in the room and told Queen Kennedy, "This is not how the Force works." Instead, he was happy to feed the baby and tell it how good it is, rather than provide it any true guidance or discipline. The Last Jedi has Kennedy's fingerprints all over it. She's a Berkeley-educated liberal feminist who was groomed by Hollywood men, told she has good ideas, and was given powerful positions without having to do all that much. Kind of like Rey. Oh, man. That's good. All the men in The Last Jedi are cowards, failures, inept, or suffer from toxic masculinity. The women know better than them The women know better than them and must save the men from their masculinity. It's the mindset of an arrogant woman who for years has put up with the men around her. Remember, Hollywood is a cesspool, and believes herself to be some sort of beacon of feminine light in the darkness. Burning the tree of the Force is setting fire to the patriarchy. The subtext of The Last Jedi is very deep and very postmodern. It's a reflection of Queen Kennedy. It's also why they had to destroy what Star Wars meant to us and why half the audience hates the film. If Star Wars is to survive a now seemingly inevitable decline, rebellious fans must storm the gates and overthrow the Queen. We must resist spending our money on Star Wars. I call for a vote of no confidence in Kathleen Kennedy's leadership. Help us, Bob Iger. You're our only hope. Hashtag fire Kathleen Kennedy.
You know, I'm going through George Lucas's memoir. He didn't write it, but it doesn't say unauthorized, and it says memoir, so I'm assuming it's got the George Lucas approval. I haven't gotten to any point where Kathleen Kennedy is announced yet or talked about or anything like that within the story yet, but I haven't got to Indiana Jones either. But from what it sounds like, their little group of filmmakers back in the day, pretty much everybody was fucking everybody. Mm-hmm. So, like, George was always worried about all these other directors sleeping with his wife. I'm willing to bet Kathleen Kennedy's had a few of them, too.
But, you know, here's the thing.
Probably.
And I know this article, while this article is definitely not a pro Kathleen Kennedy article, but this article, like so many others, talk about how she was a producer on all these iconic films without stopping to think about the fact that she had absolutely nothing to do with the creative genius of any of these films. She did not write the scripts. She did not direct the films. She did not input anything to the story. She was just a bean counter working for Spielberg or Lucas or whoever else. And so that's the problem, is that people think, oh, because she gets an award for attendance, basically. She shows up for her job to help them, you know, keep things in the budget. And then all of a sudden you're going to hand her a franchise that desperately needs a creative at the top of the food chain. And Kathleen Kennedy is not a creative. She's just a angry feminist. And that's not what we need at the top of a creative company. We need someone who wants to tell a story, not someone who wants to change the world into some bizarro upside down, you know, matriarchy.
And the people, like I said, the people who keep defending her, like we keep saying, yes, you know what? It was easy to win a championship when you're playing on the same team as Michael Jordan.
Right.
That doesn't mean you're a great basketball player.
Right.
You know, and it's just this whole idea of that their genius would just bleed over her to buy out through osmosis is misguided.
Well, and this would be like, think of your analogy. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but think of your analogy there. This would be like if you had the Bulls from from the early 90s and Michael Jordan is crushing it and everything. And then you say, you know what? Let's give that third assistant coach their own team because they were there when the Bulls were dominating, because obviously that person has got to be the reason that it's a success. You know, that's what they're doing here, is they're taking someone that just happened to be there.
No, that's the problem, though, Kathy. Gremlins had nothing to do with you. It had everything to do with Joe Dante and Chris Columbus. Back to the Future had nothing to do with you. It had everything to do with Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale. Every Spielberg movie had absolutely fucking nothing to do with you because you were working with Steven goddamn Spielberg.
Right.
There's only one, okay? There's only, you can barely say that JJ, for years they were like, oh, he's very Steven Spielberg-like. Well, that went out the window real quick. Because you know what? Steven Spielberg wouldn't make garbage like Star Trek 09. And he sure as hell wouldn't have done to Luke Skywalker what even The Force Awakens did, let alone The Last Jedi or any of that kind of crap. Well, he's got much more respect for the characters than that. And he knew better than to even try. He said, no. I'm not touching George's baby.
Right, but credit where credit is due. When I think of when people say JJ is Spielberg-like, I would say that in terms of visual style, there's some truth there, right? So like if you look at like Super 8 and some of JJ's other films, yes, his overall look is similar to Spielberg. And in fact, even though people love to make fun of the lens flare thing, if you think about Spielberg's movies, particularly in the early 80s, Spielberg was very much into throwing a lot of lights behind windows and stuff like that. Like if you look at, you know, Close Encounters and E.T. and stuff like that, that was, you know, Spielberg had a trademark lighting thing going on too.
That's the thing, though. He needs his own bag of tricks, though. He's stolen Spielberg's. But
I think JJ basically learned how to make filmmaking in the same vein as a Spielberg film. But where the problem is that doesn't mean that JJ is a creative storyteller like Spielberg. He just can emulate the Spielberg style.
Yeah, the traits. Yeah.
Right. And if I wrote a movie and I thought this was going to be a great movie and I wanted it to be Spielberg-esque, I would have no hesitation about hiring J.J. Abrams. But if I want a creator, if I want someone who's going to create this new trilogy and get people hooked on Star Wars all over again, you have to find someone who knows how to tell a freaking story. George Lucas, for all his faults, and I am no George Lucas defender. I think George Lucas is a hack director, but he is an excellent storyteller, and that's why Star Wars worked.
I would argue he didn't become a hack until like the late 90s. But anyway, I digress. Like old Spielberg was like pure Spielberg was magic, man. I mean, there was nobody like that. The only one who was even remotely close was George Lucas.
Right.
And that's why when worlds collided, we got Indiana Jones, which was just brilliance upon brilliance, you know
right.
what I mean? So you can't even begin to praise that once you get to these points. But I mean, I love George Lucas. I got this love-hate relationship with him, and I've learned over the past few weeks that I guess I'm like one of the authorities on George Lucas when it comes to our little group of the Fandom Menace, because I seem to know more about him than anybody. But like, I can't imagine that he's happy right now. I mean, he would have told you right off the bat, you need guys like Jon Favreau, you need a Ron Howard. He's wanted Spielberg to direct a Star Wars movie for him since, I believe, way back in Empire, but that wasn't going to happen because Spielberg was with the Union.
Right.
That was the main problem. And then once Star Wars was bought by Disney, he was the first one, I believe, to say, well, now Steve can finally direct one of these. And Steve's like, no. But now this JJ kid, he's perfect for the job. That's basically the way it
right. And the problem is, you know, JJ knows the style, but not the substance. And this is right. This is at the core of the rot of Hollywood today. Because if you look at a lot of tentpole films in the last 4 or 5 years, particularly, is Hollywood has completely forgotten about the fact that it's not the visual style that makes a film great. It is the storytelling aspect. Joker is not a great film because of its incredible visual style. Its visual style helps the film, but it's a great film because it's a great story, and it's very believable, and it's really interesting. But Hollywood has gotten to the point. The problem is like back in the 70s and 80s, you know, visual effects were the limitation of a film. You had to write a story around what was possible to do. And if you look at some of the ideas they had these grand ideas that they just couldn't pull off because there was no way to do visual effects for it. So they would tone it down, or they would change it. They move things around and make it so that it was doable. But it was all about the writing to sell you that even though these visual effects, like you look at old Star Trek, even like, you know, 1977 Star Wars, Jaws, a lot of these old movies, the visual effects sucked. But the story was so compelling that you didn't care. And now we're in an age where visual effects is no longer a limitation. You can literally create anything you can imagine on screen. And so nobody stops to check themselves when they're writing these stories. They don't stop to think, oh, is that going to really work? Is this a good idea? Do we need to do something with these characters? No, it's just like, hey, we can throw anything at them, so let's go for it. You know, let's have a Tyrannosaurus Rex wearing a jetpack, flying through space and you know, killing monsters or whatever. You know, you can do whatever you want and the story be damned.
Right. And I want to say real quick, we got Stephanie Littlepage in the chat. Hi, Stephanie. How you doing? Hopefully Bob is doing better. We want to remind everybody that he does have a GoFundMe that you can help support by going over there and throwing them some money. If not, share it. And the more you share it, you never know. Maybe some of your friends can help out either way. They could use some help right now. We hope he's doing well. I think she was just talking about him a little earlier. Says cranky as ever. I'm assuming that she's talking about Bob, which means he's. Yeah.
I've been out of the loop a little. What happened to Bob?
Oh, he got in a really bad accident. So if you want to check that link that I just shared, then you can see more about that. Doing pretty good so far. We've raised about $1,600, a little bit more than that. So just to remind everybody to check that out, please.
Let's get that total. Let's get that total up there. Let's.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do something maybe this weekend, possibly if we can.
Well, you guys know, and I preach about this all the time. I'm all about the nerd community, and when one of us is hurting, those of us that can need to step up. And even if you just throw a buck or two in there, do it, because we need to show love to our fellow nerds and say screw you to these people that want to co-opt the nerd community, like Kathleen Kennedy and stuff. Let's show each other what we're made of, and show them that we are not this hateful, spiteful group. We are a group motivated by love for our franchises, not hate directed towards feminism or some crap like that.
That's right. Speaking of spiteful, hateful stuff, though, anything anybody else has to say about Star Wars?
Well, not about Star Wars, but I wrote a Rob's rant about Indiana Jones,
and it's coming. When?
Phrasing. As soon as I can record, I'm having to record the Terminator thing now.
Yes, you need to get that done.
Yeah. But
I'll have a review of that probably tomorrow. That stupid Terminator
sadly
movie.
But this whole thing about what Kathleen, the article we just went through about the piece we just went through about she turned Lucasfilm into a mole rat colony, and she wants. I mean, there is no doubt. I've been saying this for the last few weeks. There is no doubt in my mind. Now, this is just my opinion now, but there is no doubt. I have no doubt that the reason why we haven't seen any Indiana Jones stuff, there's no merchandise, there's no movie right now. There could have been a movie right away. There could have been a movie within a year and a half. You kidding me? If they really wanted to make one. But we've got no merchandise, we've got no toys, we've got no video games, we got nothing. We got nothing Indiana Jones. There's no doubt in my mind that she looked at the property and said, I can't do anything with this.
Right, because it's not about a woman.
Yeah, because it's a property, with about a straight white male in a time where the hero has to be a straight white male whose name is in the name of the franchise.
Well, his name is the name of the franchise.
Yes, exactly. And you know what? I found out they closed down the Indiana Jones Adventure Outpost at Disney World and Disneyland.
I think that's been closed for a while. I know the show was done a long time ago, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Indiana Jones Adventure, they're supposed to be refurbishing. It's going to be closed in November for refurbishment.
I get where you're coming from to a point, Rob, and I hate being the naysayer on this, though, but I think a lot more of it lies within getting the trio together to agree on something. And also, you have to remember, maybe right now, George and Kathy aren't on the best of terms.
I don't think George is wanting to collaborate with anybody having to do with Disney right now.
I think... Well, yeah, I was going to say more so I think he's pissed at Kathy, because if there's anything anybody can be blamed for here, it's her, because you got to imagine he put her in place so she would see his vision through, and she was one of the people who threw it out the window and has been pissing on it ever since. So I have a feeling like, if anything, I mean, frankly, I mean, it's got to be, he's got to know she's the reason. Oh, yeah. She stabbed him. How long do you think it took her when George's back was turned to plunge the knife between the shoulder blades? I say George is not stupid. One thing I've learned from his book is he's always been able to predict the future, or at least see things ahead of, be 10 steps ahead of everybody else. Foresight, you know what I mean? Foresight. Yeah, great foresight. And for some reason in this deal, I can't believe he didn't see this woman stabbing him in the back, frankly. I mean, he could probably understand it from Bob Iger to a point that I could see, because him and Bob didn't have the greatest, I mean, they knew each other, but I didn't get the idea that they had some great relationship or anything. They knew each other well enough since back in the day. But he supposedly has known Kathy a hell of a lot longer. That's my point I'm getting to where you would think that he could trust her.
Honestly, at this point, I think that Bob Iger, I think and obviously I don't think Bob Iger is a dummy by any stretch. I think the smart money right now would be to not even consider Lucasfilm IPs at the moment. Just do, make your Disney movies, make your MCU movies, make your Pixar movies, and let Lucasfilm be your visual effects house. Just let Lucasfilm do what they do best. They're the best visual effects company on the planet. You've got them into your belt, which means that now you can produce those epic special effects cheaper than anybody else in the industry can, because you own both the effects house and the production studio. And basically say, screw making 8 million Star Wars movies, screw Indiana Jones, just let them be what they do well and what they've proven they can do well.
Well, ILM isn't even the best kid on the block anymore. Weta's kind of surpassed them and a few other, but yeah.
I don't know. I look at that Skywalker trailer and I'm sorry, those are some of the best visual effects.
Well, and here's the other thing is I don't even know here, even though they're in-house, I thought I heard that Weta did a lot of the effects for Endgame and some other houses did too, and some other things for Marvel, to where like ILM hasn't even been doing that much for the Disney effects for films other than Star Wars. I don't know.
Well, I'm not so much pissed off that there's no Indiana Jones movie. There's no merchandise. There's nothing.
That's something I noticed too. And again, that could be Paramount. We don't know how the deal is still. I know, like, if any movies they release here on out will be released by Disney, but then they have to pay, I believe, Paramount a certain amount of money or something like that.
We should.
Well, it's kind of old stuff though to be selling merch of right now too, other than DVDs.
No, but he is right, Mecca. There's no like
pop figures and shit.
I don't even think there's a pop. There might be a pop. There might be a pop indie, but there's no like collectibles. There's no like. There might be some high end figures, but I haven't seen any in years. Not since Disney's taken over.
But let's be real about it for a minute, because even though I know that, we all love Indiana Jones, and, I'm sure that everybody that's watching this stream right now and most of our subscribers all love the Indiana Jones saga, as long as you forget about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But the thing is that, is there this huge swelling that we've got to get more indie? Honestly, no. I think people hated Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and a lot of the reason was not. I mean, yes, the alien interdimensional crap was stupid, but on top of that, it was laughable to watch Harrison Ford trying to play Indiana Jones at his current age. It was out, and to recast Indiana Jones. No, it is. I'm sorry. Harrison Ford is Indiana Jones. Let that character lie. Let the Indiana Jones trilogy, which is all I'm going to ever recognize it as, be what it is, a great trilogy. And let's move on and do something else. And forget about, I know people talk, oh, Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt's great. You know what? Chris Pratt will make a great Nathan Drake, right? We don't need Chris Pratt to be Indiana Jones. Let Indiana Jones go.
Well, even like I said, Uncharted easily could have been Indiana Jones games, though.
Right.
Well, they got Tom Holland playing him now, so.
Yeah, but even so much as I'm sure Anti-Trekker that you've seen. Hold on, you've seen this. By the way, there are Indiana Jones Funko Pops.
Oh, is there? Okay, I wasn't sure on that one, so I would assume so, but this thing, yeah.
Yeah, surely you've seen this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, easily this could have been put into production as an animated series. You could have put this on Freeform or whatever.
Well, it'd be perfect for Disney Plus, but
you get somebody that can do a passable, Harrison Ford voice or something, and you could do an animated thing. I'm okay with that. But I'm saying, as far as live action blockbuster Indiana Jones, no, I don't want to see it, because it was, those three movies, the original Raiders, Temple of Doom, and Last Crusade, though that was a spectacularly awesome trilogy of adventure, and you're not going to beat it. You're not going to make anything better than those three films. And so, can we please just let it go? And because damn well that if Kathleen Kennedy decides to produce a new Indiana Jones movie, it's going to end up being Indiana Jones and the Adventures of Marion. You know, and I don't want to see that, right? Not that Marion's a bad character, but you know, it's
nobody wants to see that.
They got to shake her out of her toll booth again, though, if they want that.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding, folks. That's where she was working when they went and found her for Indiana Jones.
But whatever, you know, they'll make it.
Yeah, she was working in a fucking toll booth.
Yeah. Indiana Jones and the Amazonian Adventure, and it's like Indy in the first 2 minutes of the movie is tied up like Mad Max was, and the whole movie is about these Amazons saving the world or something. You know, I don't want to see that crap. I really don't.
Well, the way around that is that you could just commission, you could carry on the series in book form too.
Yeah,
and the main problem you have now is that unless you do the deep fake shit, which may be one of the ways around all this stuff, now that it's getting a little bit more believable, is you got to remember right now, if they do an Indiana Jones movie, it's going to end up taking place during the 60s.
Right, and it'll suck. I'm sorry, it will suck. And in fact, that's what they'll do. You make Indiana Jones and the Sexual Revolution. That's what they're going to do.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
He'll be walking down in like a Haight-Ashbury or something, walking down the street.
No freaking thank you. Please just let the character be done. You had 3 beautiful films, and just leave it at that, please.
What's with all the naked people on the drugs?
Tom, do you think we're gonna get like 4K reissues of the?
Oh yeah, they're already talking in the next couple of years here. That's the thing is, I know, like I said, Rob, that's one thing you're gonna have to preface, whatever, in your video, is that obviously you're gonna have to find out how much Paramount still has a say in this, and because that's the only thing is they still own the distribution rights to the first 4 films, or at least the first 3, and I don't know if. Because that's the thing. George was really good at making the deals where he got distribution rights on sequels and shit. So I wouldn't be surprised if Lucasfilm owns distribution rights to like some of the sequels in part 4. But anyway, I don't know. You'll have to find all that stuff out because you're dealing with 2 different companies that have to deal with each other. Yeah. And I can't imagine Paramount's real happy with Disney.
Paramount retains the distribution rights to the first 4 films in the television series.
Because I'm sure that the Paramount was all like, yeah, go ahead, buy us out with the whole Avengers Marvel thing.
Any new film they get.
Yeah, and here's the thing is, like, I'm sure Paramount's not too happy with what they lost with the whole Marvel deal. Because they lost out big time. Because they could have got
Paramount's got to be shooting themselves in the foot right now about losing the MCU.
That would have saved the company.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have been so worried about Disney. Paramount would have been just stomping motherfuckers. Paramount would have just become the Marvel movie studio. They just pump out Transformer and Marvel movies. That's it now.
Marvel Transformer crossovers.
Well, and hopefully revitalize
Ninja Turtles
eventually.
Yeah, they don't give a shit about. Well, they didn't have Star Trek till recently. Well, that's what Rob was bringing up at the beginning, is that the merger is coming closer, but we still have that little fucking fly in the ointment, Rob, you know.
Alex Klutzman?
Yeah.
He's a little fly?
Well, big fly. Whatever. I don't know. You like the Green Lantern, Rob. Let's move on to this story. This is the other big news. Green Lantern's coming. Okay.
Walt Disney Studios, Paramount have reached a distribution marketing agreement with Indiana Jones franchise. Under the arrangement, Disney gains distribution marketing to rights to feature films, in addition to retaining ownership rights it secured when it acquired Lucasfilm. Paramount will continue to be responsible for the distribution of the first 4 films in the franchise and will receive financial participation on any future films that are produced and released. So there you go.
All right. God damn it, Entertainment Weekly, you suck ass. All right.
So Paramount gets a cut of any future films?
Yeah, so I knew there was some kind of joint deal with them. But all right, this Green Lantern news, Rob. This was the other big news. We've already been on this other shit for an hour. Green Lantern's coming to HBO. Maximum garbage.
What? Huh?
As we said earlier, HBO's dishing out the cash, folks, which is weird because, well, not just HBO. It's actually Warner Brothers and AT&T. Which is weird because they have such a bevy of their own shit, yet they're tossing out the money for South Park. Couldn't believe that shit.
Arrowverse mastermind Greg Berlanti's superhero empire continues to grow. The prolific producer behind Arrow and The Flash is currently working on 2 new superhero shows for Warner Media's new streaming platform, HBO Max. A DC superhero anthology show called Strange Adventures and a Green Lantern inspired series, according to a press release. Boasting characters from across DC's expansive canon, Strange Adventures is the 1-hour show that will explore the close-ended morality tales about intersecting lives of mortals and superhumans. No details were released about the Green Lantern show apart from the fact that it's happening and that those who worship evil's might... Oh, shut up. Both of these original DC properties will be creating for HBO Max. And then take a look at Greg Berlanti. He even looks like Alex Kurtzman, J.J. Abrams' clone.
Can I say this? First of all, any of you guys see Watchmen?
No.
Yeah, I rest my case. It's going to suck. HBO, the HBO used to have the novelty of at least saying, HBO, we can show tits. That's about it. And they produce some good content, don't get me wrong, but at this point, just because HBO is involved in it means nothing. The fact that you have the Arrowverse mastermind, I'm sorry, the Arrowverse was fun for like two years. It's done. I'm tired. It's cookie cutter, it's generic, and I don't care. And so I don't think that just because it'll just be the Arrowverse with tits. I think that's what we're going to get. And I really don't care. Could not care less. Sorry. That's my 2 cents on it. I think that, HBO, HBO was relevant 10 years ago.
Why is it called HBO Max if it's Warner Brothers thing?
Because HBO was the more recognizable.
Yeah.
Not only that, I think HBO... See, that's the thing. Remember when we would talk about Parrot Analytics and their horse shit when it came to, like, CBS All Access? And we would look at these graphs, and it's like, where the fuck's HBO? Because HBO has, like, 20 or 30 million subscribers or something like that, it was?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, because they're, like, right up there neck and neck with, like, Netflix and Amazon and all that kind of shit. Like, they're up there. Like, I think they have more subscribers than Hulu, I think is the deal. Especially at the height of Game of Thrones. But see, to go to what you're saying, though, also, I don't know if they're going to make these actual R-rated shows or it's just for the fact that it's for the Warner. Probably because HBO Max is more catchy than the Warner streaming service.
Right.
Or something like that. Because Warner doesn't...
Everything.
Yeah, because Warner doesn't have, like, the same ring as Disney to it, to where everybody knows what Disney is when they see it.
Disney as a brand name on its own sells people. And the problem is that 10 years ago, you could say the same thing about HBO, but now not so much. That's what I'm saying about that is that HBO.
And they've turned into like the leftist fucked up channel. Don't ask me why. I don't know what the fuck happened over there. They used to show good shit. They used to make really great shows. And then they started letting J.J. Abrams make stuff. And they decided that no nudity except for the 50 Shades of movies were going to be allowed anymore on HBO or Cinemax.
Really? I didn't know about
that.
Yeah. They were puritanical? What the hell?
So I as far as I know, unless they changed it, like they even took all the like stuff off of like the streaming services to where you couldn't even get like any of the real sex or any of that shit anymore.
See, now like Game of Thrones kind of started failing when it started getting less and less,
And that might have been something that happened in a shift in the Me Too movement, because that's what it all kind of boiled down to.
Yeah, objectifying women kind of thing. Oh my God, how dare you appreciate the nude human form?
See, now it used to be people on the left would actually be, hey, quit censoring us. We want to be naked and be free and express our individuality, express our sexuality, express our bodies. What happened to that? What happened to the actual liberal notion that, sex was, an expressive thing and censorship was bad?
Because they needed to come up with a new scapegoat to hate. And so now it's toxic masculinity. And I'm sorry, what is it that men like more than anything else? Naked women. You know,
it's evolution. I mean, if people are designed to procreate, and that awakens, it awakens a lot of survival instincts. It awakens drive. It awakens ambition. All of these things revolve around, attracting a mate and procreating, things like that. That is the meaning of life.
Why do you think we have professional sports? It's so men can impress women.
That's part of it, yeah.
Well,
do you think men usually care about like cars unless it's to get women half the time and shit?
No,
like
all
that?
the stuff that men care about is generally an attempt to get women.
Yeah,
and
Jeff Foxworthy wasn't lying when he said all guys are usually thinking of is I just like a beer and see something naked.
Right, and the thing is that like And I know some people are probably going, "Oh my God, anti-trick! Aren't you supposed to be a good, upstanding, moral Christian kind of guy?" Yes, but first of all, if you were to make an accurate representation of the Bible into a film, it would be definitely NC-17.
The Bible's full of sex.
Oh yeah, and holy crap! There's a book in the Bible called Song of Solomon. Wow, it's straight up
sex and violence, and sex and more killing, and
but the thing is that I am all for quality adult storytelling. But this is where we fall apart again, where we start depending on the superficial, right? Where it's like, oh, well, if we show you boobies, then you won't care about the fact that our writing sucks. And, well, I'll say this. If I see a nice set of boobs in a movie, that's a plus. But if it's not in an interesting story, like I will tell you, I wanted to punch Halle Berry in the face when I saw Swordfish. Because that scene where she flashes her tits on the screen was so gratuitous and so stupid that it actually was a detractor to me, even though I think Halle Berry is hot. It
didn't fix the movie either.
Right. But, I mean, so say what you want about whether you like Swordfish or not, that scene was the absolute definition of gratuitous. And I don't want gratuitous sex or gratuitous violence in my storytelling, but I do like the idea, and this is where companies like HBO and stuff should find their wheelhouse. I want storytelling that is not limited by censorship, by worrying about, oh, we can't show this because no, if it serves the story, put it in. If it doesn't serve the story, though, don't.
It needs to be stressed, though, unless it says in this article, Rob, specifically did it say it was going to be made for HBO or HBO Max? Because it was just, I was going to say, because we have no reason to believe it's going to be anything more than a bit more expensive version of what he gets to do on the CW, which, to this point, has turned into a lot of feelings in hallways with fast people.
Yeah, I don't care about the CW stuff at all anymore. I mean, it was fun, but then, they didn't.
It's for Hot Topic teenagers, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that? Yeah.
Yeah, it got really convoluted and it got too deep into when I backed out of it, Arrow had turned into a flat out fucking soap opera.
Right.
The Flash had run into the same, pun intended, run into the same problems that Smallville did with the whole Freak of the Week.
Right.
It just gets old after. And how many speedsters can you fucking have? I got to a point where I was just like, bleh.
Well, and that's where I don't understand. And even Marvel has done this to a certain extent. It's like, can we please have if you're going to have a superhero based show or film, do they really have to fight someone else that has the exact same powers as them? Can we please, can Flash please take on people that aren't super duper fast?
It's like they forgot what kryptonite was.
Right.
Kryptonite, of course, wasn't invented in the comics. Most Superman fans know that it came in the radio show, but there's a reason why it's become not only synonymous with the name whatever said superhero's weaknesses, it's their kryptonite. It's what is it? What am I looking for, Rob? It's become like nomenclature. What's the word I'm looking for?
That's a problem. Right. That's a problem though with DC characters as a whole, and that's among the reasons that I tend to like Marvel better is that Superman, for example, without kryptonite is completely unbeatable and becomes boring based on that,
Right.
And so the one thing I like about Marvel is that their superheroes generally, not in every case, but generally their superheroes are not so powerful that you have to come up with
except for one, they're all flawed. That's the main thing. All of the Marvel superheroes, except for one, are all flawed. The only one that's not flawed is Captain Marvel Pants, because she's the bestest ever. But hopefully,
I think that Captain Marvel is not going to give it as much play as some people think.
I don't think she is, because from Bob Iger's book and from the way Endgame went, and the fact that we have not heard, and I know I've said this before, but the fact that we have not heard anything on the Captain Marvel 2 front yet, considering how much of a push there was behind her.
Right.
And, they're making a big deal out of, her movie made $1 billion. Well, if they were so worried about it, then why are we hearing more about Ant-Man fucking 3 than we are about Captain Marvel?
I've heard more about Guardians 3, to be honest.
Well, Guardians made money. Exactly. Ant-Man 2 arguably did not make that much money compared to Captain Marvel, like doubled the money, if not more than what Ant-Man made. Why are we getting an Ant-Man 3 already when Captain Marvel was supposed to be the next big thing?
Well,
because she wasn't the next big thing, folks.
Right.
That's why, so many people went to see the movie, but a lot of people also didn't like her enough to where they got the fucking idea when it came to Endgame, and she was basically removed from the goddamn movie, folks.
Yeah,
well, not only that.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, not only that, you go to this store and her DVDs are still piled up. Mm-hmm. Like, they have a completely empty end displays of all these things except for Captain Marvel at stores.
Oh, I had a picture on my old phone somewhere and I lost it because the phone got destroyed. But it was a whole fucking thing of Captain Marvel dolls on clearance. Just a whole ream of them.
But and I think that the thing is, I know that the SJW crowd wants Captain Marvel to be the center of the Marvel universe because she is the epitome of SJW-ness in superhero form. But anybody who knows the comics knows that really the heart and soul of Marvel is Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four.
I was just going to say, you don't need her. You got Sue Storm coming. You got every one of the X-Women coming. You don't need her. More people know who Sue Storm is than they do who Captain Marvel is. More people know all the characters in X-Men than know who Captain Marvel is. She is fucking pointless at this point, other than to be a superpowered superhero who could do everything.
Right, which is no fun, and that's the thing, is that
and getting us right back to the whole kryptonite deal. Yes,
right. But Captain Marvel is is just a boring character because she's so freaking tough and powerful and all that she can't lose.
Her kryptonite is negative, man.
And it's like, I think even though like the all-female Avengers thing in Endgame was stupid, I honestly think the most cringeworthy moment in the entire MCU to this point was Thanos headbutting Captain Marvel. That was the most cringeworthy moment because there you have the most powerful bad of all time basically hitting her in a move that should have at the very least knocked her unconscious, and he literally bounced off of her.
I get well, it shouldn't even have got to that point because he shouldn't have had to pull the stone out to hit her with it. He's got the fucking stones already.
Right.
He can just beat her ass. All he's got to do is turn her into a pig.
And this is
into a rabbit. Right. Turn her into. He's got all. It's just stupid. Never mind.
Well, this is into a unicorn.
Yeah. Without the stones. Thanos was, that little boxing match he had with Hulk at the beginning of Infinity War. That should show you right there that nobody in the MCU should be able to go toe to toe with Thanos. Nobody. And yet they had to make it so she could, because Captain Marvel can never, ever, ever, ever lose. And that's just...
and Andre and I even got an argument with that about it. I'm like, no, that was necessary to show the Hulk get his ass kicked for 2 reasons. I said, A, just to show how powerful Thanos is, and B, to give him a reason why the Hulk doesn't want to come out. Because he's fucking scared of Thanos. And Andre's like, no, I don't buy that. He wouldn't be scared of it. Like, yeah, but you got to remember, this is the one thing that Hulk's come into contact with that he's scared of.
Right. And Hulk never gets beaten because Hulk.
Exactly.
And so for Hulk to get, and not just like, because like the fight with Hulk and Thor in Ragnarok, you could argue that Thor won that fight, even though Jeff Goldblum, called the match. But you could argue Thor won that fight, but it was at least close.
Oh, yeah. If it would have went on, it would have gotten bloodier, definitely.
Yeah. But Thanos made really short work of Hulk. Just basically let Hulk hit him a couple times, got a good idea of his style, and then proceeded to, in about 10 seconds, beat the living snot out of the Hulk, which is something the Hulk didn't even conceive was possible.
Right.
And so then And so, yeah, I absolutely, I know some people didn't like the whole Hulk is scared thing, but I thought it was brilliant to show that this guy is so badass that he can beat the tar out of the Hulk in, like bam, like that. And, all of a sudden, holy crap, the Hulk's scared of him. How the hell are they going to beat this guy? And he doesn't have all the stones yet,
Right, and then and some people didn't like what they did do in the second movie either. But that's I've liked what they've done with the Hulk so far, but that's off topic now.
Right.
As far as Green Lantern goes, I don't know if we're gonna get an R-rated Green Lantern. I don't see it.
I don't see a need for it.
No, it's gonna be now. I don't think this may not even necessarily affect a Green Lantern film series, because as we've seen so far from DC, they're more than willing to do multiple things on different platforms.
Yeah, that's the problem, though. DC needs to figure out what the hell they want to do and just do it.
Because we're also getting a Superman and Lois series coming that's going to be on the CW, I believe, which I'm not against. It's like you have these characters, fucking use them. They're perfect for serial television.
Well, but we need... I mean, and that's the problem. Marvel... if it's funny because you look at the early Marvel films, like Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, and then you could see they were looking for that Marvel style, and then they locked it in with Avengers and they ran with it, and they stuck to it from that point on. And the MCU is freaking legend. However, with DC, they got timid over the initial thing with Man of Steel and Batman v Superman because of the fan backlash. And so rather than try to tweak it here and there, which is what Marvel did, because think about it, we were only 2 movies in when they decided to completely radically change everything. But then they just said, oh, we don't know what to do. Screw it. We're just going to make a whole bunch of different stuff. And now it's just this convoluted mess where you're unfortunately, like, I know that we, because we talk about the business all the time, so we kind of get it. But your average fans, they don't know what the hell is going on. Is this part of the continuity? Is this not? Wait a minute. Joker was Batman's enemy, but now Joker is back in the 80s. And wait, but this guy was Joker, but this guy is Joker. But wait, Batman is what? And they're just going to, unfortunately, the more they do this crap, and like if they do a Lois and Clark 2 and whatever, and they do this Green Lantern series, and they do all this stuff that they're just throwing in all these different directions, it's not going to galvanize a fan base like Marvel did, where Marvel built up this whole thing with the films. Now they can use it to, it's going to definitely affect the numbers of Disney Plus, because all the Marvel fanboys are, holy crap, we're going to get a Hawkeye and WandaVision and
well, that's because Bob's been, you can say he's either smart or whatever, but I don't think he's dumb. A lot of people are bitching about the 4th phase of Marvel, but I'm like, no. It's just because they went and split it up among the Disney Plus and what's going to be in theaters, and all these quote unquote series. All they're going to be is limited series of like elongated movies split up into episodes.
But the thing is that people are excited about it because
people feel like they have to watch it. Yes. You've made I get what you're totally saying. And the CW has its own little group of fans, and the movies have their group of fans, and you even have that sublet of fans that are the Snyder fans, So you've got like I get what you're saying. They could be more uniformed, and I said that back in the day because I actually liked the Flash. I'm like, why don't they just get the kid from the series to play him? I don't like this other guy.
Right.
The other kid got it pretty down pat. And then you don't have to build up all this other shit. Everybody's already been invested in the show. All they need to do, if they really are interested in the characters, go back to the show.
Right. And that could have been a great way to tie the CW verse into the DCEU, is by using that same Flash character.
And it wasn't a stupid idea to do that either, because in what world are you really ever going to do an Arrow movie?
Right. You're not. And the thing is, in that way, you don't even have to worry about doing a Flash movie. Unless
exactly
Flashpoint or something, but you have him.
I'll be honest, I don't think Flash is going to do as well as they think it would in this theater. I don't think it would be as big of a movie as they think.
I don't either, because Flash. The problem is Flash.
Again, look at Aquaman though.
Huh? Aquaman was a little different. That had Jason Momoa. If you didn't have Jason Momoa in that part, I don't think Aquaman made the money it made.
No,
let's be real. If they had cast Aquaman to classic comic accurate, you would have someone like, maybe Chris Evans playing the part, wearing the green tights and orange shirt, and everybody would have laughed at it.
Yeah, right? Or the guy playing like Jamie Lannister. What's his name? I can't remember the actor name, but You know, yeah, you would have had a blonde pretty boy.
Right. And I'm glad they went the way they did with Aquaman, as far as I think Jason Momoa is a good pick. But the problem is that if you look at Aquaman and Shazam and compare that to, you know, Batman v Superman and Wonder Woman, and you're like, how is this the same universe? You know, it doesn't make any freaking sense. And even though I'm fine, you know, I think Shazam was probably the best DC movie thus far. I really enjoyed it.
Me too.
But I still think that DC would be served better to go the more serious route, because they open themselves up for movies like Joker and do a serious Batman that's a serious detective instead of just pow pow pew pew bam bam. And if they did that, you know, they could separate themselves from Marvel in the same way. If you think about the whole nerd culture, think about Star Trek fans and Star Wars fans, right? And you would have had basically the Star Trek type of thing about how we're intellectual and deep and about the human condition. That would have been the DC side, where the people that were saying we're about having a great time and classic stories of epic proportions of good versus evil, that would have been the Marvel side, you know, and that would have been healthy for the industry to have two competing franchises, but they weren't competing in that they were trying to outdo each other with the same thing. They were trying to use similar types of characters in two very different worlds. But unfortunately, we're not getting that. We're just getting one unified world and another convoluted mess that they don't know what the hell they're doing.
Well, and that's another problem, is they keep changing regimes over there and who's in charge of what. That's another problem.
They really need to just, you know, Warner Brothers seriously needs to start a child company just called DC Studios, find a Kevin Feige type of creative leader and say, make it work.
Oh, we've said that before too, yeah. I mean, I don't know what you think, Rob. I mean, you're a little bit more comics heavy. I don't see, especially if they went with Ezra Miller or whatever the hell his name is, I would see Flash falling flat on his face in theaters. I just don't see it doing the number, because for one, my reasoning is yeah, this newer Flash did okay on the CW, but the original Flash television show didn't get enough viewers to keep that show on the air for more than a year. This show's just getting enough for a CW show. Nobody clicked with Ezra Miller. I don't see, unless they did some really kick-ass Flashpoint storyline, I don't see it doing anything.
Nah, it's I don't see.
It's a flash in the pan.
Okay.
Right.
And the stupid thing is, like, now CW is doing, you know, this whole Crisis on Infinite Earth storyline. And it's like, you're going to freaking take the most epic story that DC has ever put out and put it on the CW rather than make it into a movie trilogy or something. You guys are stupid.
Well, that's my other problem with their stuff, is they've tried to make it to where it's like Avengers and stuff like that, to where you have to see all their shows, but I don't like all their shows.
Right.
Yeah.
I hate when I have to watch these other shows to know what the fuck's going on, because they always cross over with each other. I mean, I really tried to like the time traveling show, and it just didn't really click with me. And I know I wouldn't like Batwoman. I didn't really watch any of the other shows, so I was just like, yeah, whatever.
Oh, Batwoman's stupid. No, it's stupid. It shouldn't exist.
She's the woman, the Batwoman.
And I don't know. We've all said this. Gary and I have talked about this. Doomcock and I have talked about this. Rob and I have talked about this a million times. Why don't we just get a straight up gritty noir Batman television show? That's what everybody wants.
Right. And the thing is that Batman is one of those characters that you could definitely produce on a television budget. He doesn't have to fly. He doesn't have to have, you know, laser vision and crap like that. And in fact, and this is something, again, that they don't understand. If you really want to make Batman interesting, you make it a hard procedural police drama, basically. But you make it with intense storylines that go on over arcs of multiple episodes. You know, you make it so Batman, basically, if you look at the comic books at his best, he is a serial killer hunter. And it's like, and then, you know, and it's the fight stuff is the climax, but it's not, you know, unfortunately in the films, that's all he does is fight, fight, fight. You know, we don't get that detective work. We just get the end of it. And like
have action.
What's that?
Gotta have action.
Right. But the thing is, like, think about Dexter. right? The series Dexter. And where each season was Dexter hunting down another serial killer, except replace Dexter with Bruce Wayne / Batman, spending an entire season trying to track down the killer that and whatever that killer's thing is, be it the Joker, the Riddler, whatever. And I mean, holy crap, could that be an awesome freaking show? But instead, we just want to say, who can build the bigger, badder Batmobile and, and have the most Bat gadgets and stuff without calling them Bat gadgets. And that's just, it's so stupid to me that they don't realize the gold mine they have in quality, adult, meaning mature entertainment that they could get out of The Dark Knight.
Mm-hmm. Well, they wouldn't do it though because they can get more money out of the movies.
I know they're afraid to do anything cool, and that's where I know we're not probably going to get a Superman movie anytime soon if they do this series, because that's one of their big characters, and it's like, once they do that.
But you see, and that's where Superman is the opposite. Superman needs to be in film because Superman needs to be big, epic spectacle.
Yes, to a point. But again, I don't just, I can, in this day and age, especially with digital effects the way they are and as cheap as they are, there's no real excuse. Just about any superhero can live on television just as well as they do in film, if not better, because you have more time to flesh out the characters. The only thing you're not going to get is you're not going to get Robert Downey Jr.'s and all these things all the time. I get that. And I've never even seen this new guy because I fell out of Supergirl early on, so I don't even know if this new guy's any good. But I'm just not adverse to that idea. I don't see a problem with it. That's where I'm like, what is stopping us from getting a Batman TV show? Exactly what Mecca's saying. Oh, no. He's our golden goose. We can't poach that right now. We got to save him for what?
And yet what? Ruined him in the films.
Yeah, you've done nothing but fuck him over in the last few years. And whether you like Affleck as Batman or not, they've done a piss poor job of utilizing him.
Mm-hmm.
You saved him back for what? Now we got to wait till 2 years to see this Matt Reeves movie and pray to God that it doesn't suck.
But
seriously, who the hell wants to watch Robert Pattinson as Batman? Like, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Like you make you haven't seen Robert Pattinson do anything else. I'm like, I don't want to see him do anything else. Okay.
I mean, he's a fine actor. He's probably going to do a great job in this. But I think this is where they're trying to just get rid of us old farts. And they're like, okay, well, you know what? How can we get them out of these fandoms? But we still want their money. Well, we'll make a Batman movie, but we'll put Twilight in it.
I mean, I get it. They're trying to go younger. That's fine. But you run into the problem that you do with somebody like Michael Keaton or Ben Affleck. That is, I already know them as said person. You're going to have a tough time with me buying them as Batman. But I did. Michael Keaton found a way. He played the crazy side.
And the thing is that
Affleck played, well, yeah, go ahead.
Well, there's so many unknown actors in Hollywood that, and I think that, and this is something else that they don't see, that they really should, is that number one, it's really no longer the case that just putting a big name actor in, draws in the box office. It will help you a little bit here and there with the marketing, but it's really, quite frankly, people don't go see a movie because this actor is in it anymore. That's just
and that's what I was going to get to is, I'm more apt to be more excited where you find somebody who fits the character, who I may not know who they are, and that's fine. So I can see them as said character.
Yeah, and then on the flip side, like if you make a Batman procedural show, like what I was talking about a minute ago, mirroring like what they did with Dexter, and you bring in somebody, because like Michael C. Hall played Dexter. Nobody heard of him before that show. I mean, yeah, he'd done a few things, but nobody really, there was no Michael C. Hall fan club or anything. But then Dexter was freaking awesome. You find that perfect person to be your Bruce Wayne / Batman, and then move from there. Instead of, oh, look, we signed Ben Affleck. So
you need to cast a Batman movie like a Star Wars movie.
Right.
You get, some name actor to play your Alfred, like you did Alec Guinness, like he did for Obi-Wan. You get a name actor, like, somebody to play like your Gordon. you know, to kind of take, you know, the older characters, the more seasoned people,
Sure.
so you trust those actors.
You find people that are semi-retired,
right.
easy to get.
Maybe you get some more known actors to play some other characters that are not as well known characters. That I don't have so much an issue with, because then it's easier to get to know those characters a little bit better.
Or even like as villains. Like think about,
that's what I was saying. You like a perfect example is like Harvey Dent. Two-Face was one of the lower level characters before the last, say, 20, 30 years, because he was never in the old 66 Batman series. You know, he was never really in any of the cartoons because a lot of people found him too grotesque, so they didn't want to animate. I believe he made like one appearance.
Right, the comic book cartoon, but that's about it.
Yeah, so like that was a situation where having Billy D. Williams play him in the first Batman movie made sense. You know, he's somebody, you know, we're introducing this character that not a lot of people know. Well, off of that, in the Batman animated series, and then following with Tommy Lee Jones, well, everybody knows who Two-Face is now. You know, and then of course to the more famous version just recently. But my point being is, you know, that I don't have so much a problem with. That makes sense. You know, you get, or Superman casting is the same thing. That's a better example. You get somebody famous to play your Jor-El characters and your, you know, bigger, older characters, and then you find people who fit the parts otherwise, because nobody really knew who, you know, Margot Kidder was yet. Nobody knew who the hell Christopher Reeve was. You know, they weren't banking the movie on them. They were banking the movie on, you know, Lex Luthor being played by, you know, the world's greatest actor of all time, Gene Hackman, besides only a few maybe. And, you know, and the other greatest actor at that time, Marlon Brando. So, yeah, you had those two.
Well, and I think about like in a contemporary, like in a television type thing, if you look again at Dexter, John Lithgow as the killer in season 3, I think it was.
Right.
And how great that was. And that was the first time we got an actor that you would recognize, and on Dexter. And so, yeah, you bring in your named talent, the people know who they are, for your guest stars. But your core cast, yeah, you create these people who, because that way people don't see John Lithgow or Tom Cruise or whatever. They see Bruce Wayne. You know, and that's where their big mistake is. They're trying to cast someone that you'll recognize because they think that somehow that's going to improve the character. But Bruce Wayne needs to be Bruce Wayne, not X actor. And they've never cast Bruce Wayne with a no name, and I don't understand why.
Closest was Christian Bale.
Yeah, but Christian Bale was known, you know,
known, but not like well known.
Yeah.
I mean, at that time, I think his biggest movie was American Psycho or whatever. Wasn't that about it? I mean, he was a child actor. Don't get me wrong. He's been in tons of shit.
Right.
But, I mean, he wasn't like this big A-list actor that everybody, oh, that's Christian Bale. You know, he wasn't until Batman.
That voice.
I'm not wearing hockey pads. Have you ever seen Bad Man, the College Humor?
Yeah.
Parodies. When he's trying to find his Batman voice. You ever see that one? Where were the other drugs going?
Yeah. Hey! No, come on. You got
that was Seinfeld. No.
Drugs. What's going on with those? So yeah, they
where were the other drugs? Oh, sorry, excuse me. Oh wait, that was good.
The drugs. Who are they for? Who's buying them? So
they're for me.
Ray Romano, no. Yeah, right. No,
I told you, Jerry. I told you not to get involved with the Batman. I told you.
Always trouble.
Always trouble. Always trouble with the Batman. Always trouble. Kapla, Jerry. Kapla.
God, Jerry Lewis is a Klingon commander.
That would be a million times better than Star Trek Discovery.
That's true.
Did you want to do the Discovery article or no?
Oh, the one that. Which one?
The Laurel one. Speaking of Discovery.
Oh yeah, that was the one that has you in it, right? You make a guest appearance.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't my whole thing. But
Gary, actually, Gary's the one who brought this to my attention. So. So let's bring this up here.
It's cool. Yeah, I don't usually. I was gonna do a video on, but I'm like, who the fuck is she? But okay, I can use it as I can just,
It's the blue chick. It's the rapist bitch.
Yeah. Dead Klingon baby skullhead chick.
Dead Klingon baby lady.
The woman who decided that we need to be more inclusive.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Hey. Oh yeah. Hey, how about
make it look like she should be married to Thanos?
You know how's an easy way to pick out somebody who's actually seen the Clerks animated series? Is they get the dead baby line where you go, "Hey, lady with the dead baby."
I need to rewatch that. Oh my god, I need to rewatch that. It's been so long. It's such a good show.
Oh, I fucking love Clerks the animated series.
I did too. I loved it.
Last week on Clerks.
Star Trek Discovery's Mary Chieffo calls to replace Game of Thrones creators with diversity hire checklist. Mary Chieffo, known for playing Chancellor L'Oreal on Star Trek Discovery, took to Twitter.
Is it fair to say she's known for it? Because really, like 3,000 people have seen Discovery.
You sure it's 3,000?
I got recognized more than she did.
She was there?
Yeah, remember she gave us a dirty look. Oh no, it was me and Rob. She gave me.
I can't believe I didn't hit on her because she looks like I could. Never mind. Anyway,
she's like, you can get her.
Oh, drink the water.
Maybe you were. Maybe you were.
I might have at some point. I'm sorry, lady.
Maybe that's why she's staring us down.
You're with that fat fuck who hit on me. Wow. Which one? There's like hundreds of them here. You know the one. One of those fucking Hawaiian shirts.
No, she stared us down because we happened to be walking by somebody who was running that little Tribble display thing where you get your picture taken with all the Tribbles, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I haven't seen Discovery at all." And as we were walking by, Rob and I looked to each other. I'm like, "Yeah, I don't watch Discovery." So we said it to each other, and of course, she's walking right in front of us, crossing our path into the thing, and
she glowered.
Yeah, she just stared daggers, and of course I felt bad until she opened her mouth on Sunday. So,
yeah, I don't get to use the word glower very often. So that's what's called.
I heard it. Anyway. I heard it in the George Lucas book the other day. It made me laugh.
Glowered. He glowered at me.
No, he glowered. George was the one doing the glowering.
Well, okay, let's. Awesome. Yeah, let's get through this here. Known for blah blah blah. Took the Twitter file to ask her files to replace exit Game of Thrones. Blah blah blah. Benioff and Weiss announced their decision to exit Star Wars, citing their schedule was full up following their recently inked Netflix deal in August, which is reportedly worth $250 million over the next 5 years. However, there is speculation that the two were fired by Disney, given Netflix is a direct competitor.
What the fuck are you reading?
Bounding into comics.
Oh, okay, I see it now. Okay, I was like, where are you at?
The screen did because.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, I got lost.
Chieffo asked her fans which member of a diversity checklist they'd like to see take the reins following a Benioff and Weiss exit from Star Wars. Chieffo gives her fans 4 options, describing it as super freaking smart and badass. The options include A, a woman, B, a person of color, C, a member of the LGBTQ plus community, D, all of the above. And
somebody Rosetta qualified.
So is she insinuating they lost their job just because they're 2 white boys? Am I getting this vibe, or is that just me?
No, but she just wants a token diversity hire to replace them.
She's basically advocating for discriminating against white men.
I gotcha.
Yeah. Chieffo's tweet was criticized by a number of people for being bigoted, racist, and sexist. Others pointed out that Disney and Lucasfilm should look for the most qualified person rather than superficial traits. Rosetta Allen. Hey, Rosetta.
We know these
mixed race woman. Yeah. This post is incredibly bigoted. Stop hiring just for gender or race. Hiring someone for their race or their gender is bigoted. No effing duh. Queen Mecca the Merciless. It's sexist. Oh, read it, Mecca.
What did I say? Oh no, I gotta look at it. I can't see
on the screen.
I know. All right.
You want me to read it?
Yeah, I can see if I can make it bigger.
And racist to hire based on gender or gender and skin color. I think it auto corrected to general, but it's It's not very inclusive and goes against the Star Trek values I grew up with, accepting all people.
Proofread your shit, Mecca.
Well,
Yeah.
I know it was probably
I'm
a
just
3 a.m.
picking
Was it a
on
3
you.
a.m. tweet?
Picking
That was 11 a.m.
12
tweet.
p.m.
11 a.m. It's in the morning. I was in bed.
Yeah.
It's a bed tweet.
At noon. Come on.
It's a bed tweet. I'm up until 4 in the morning.
Josiah Rises. How about the most qualified? Crazy
We don't
idea, I
have
know. There's great storytellers and storytellers from every race, gender, and sexual orientation. Colin Cochran, no marry, no. Hire people based on whether or not they're qualified. Don't base it on race, gender, or sexuality. That's actually racist and sexist. One person believed Chifo's checklist didn't go far enough. They asked, I guess disabled don't matter?
That's a good point, actually, because all these people that do checklists, it's like, you know what? I'm dyslexic, so shouldn't I get included on your diversity list?
Oh, well, they go into that by talking about how ableist Star Trek is.
Well, we have had the moments where they had their moments of idiocy when they've like, oh no, but if somebody's X whatever, disability, then you should have X person with that said disability playing that part.
Of course, yeah, we do have Tilly.
Well, no,
no,
they have
but here,
Spock, learning disabled
my
Spock.
point was like this. Okay, I get it. Okay, if you get a paraplegic person who's an actor who can play the part, perfect. But how many paraplegic people do you know out there that are just dying to get into acting?
Well, and even if they were, if you're doing something, for example, Star Trek, where you're on a military vessel and stuff, I knew people that I was actually in the Army. If you're a paraplegic, you're not going to be in the Army.
That's my point I was going to get to is like, there's not a lot of roles out there for you. Right. It's, unless somebody specifically writes a role for you in that instance, chances are you're not going to have a career. So
you get a paraplegic to play Professor X. Okay. But as far
as quadriplegic or any, I'm not even trying to pick on anybody with any kind of disability. I was just trying to, use one as an example. It just goes across the board. I'm not trying to dissuade anybody who has a disability of trying to be an actor. That's great. If you can rise above it, go ahead. Yeah.
But the acting, okay. For acting, you always cast to the part. Whatever the character is, you cast that. If you need a white male character, you cast a white male. If you need a black female, you cast a black female. End of discussion. You don't need to freaking go any deeper than that because it is superficial. But when you, with your directors, your producers and stuff like that, if you want to go all affirmative action like she's advocating here, then yeah, so you don't forget to, that's the problem with affirmative action, because you better include everybody on that list or you're just as bigoted as the people that you are supposedly attacking.
And she kind of owns not bringing in people with disability.
Right. Well, yeah, but still, I mean, I wish they would have used my retweet here instead of just one of my replies, because my retweet, when I first called her on it, and I think part of why everybody started ganging up on her. So sorry, I didn't really mean for people to gang up on her, but I said you need to be more inclusive of all genders and sexual orientations. While there is no reason to exclude hiring females or LGBTQ, I would hope we would go back to a time when people were hired based on skill set and not based on who they sleep with, skin color, or gender.
Or anything for that matter.
And that's the one that I ended up saying, and then even with Hollywood Reporters, and I even retweeted theirs, and I said, here's how you say Mary Chifo's tweet like a grown-up. If more diversive directors are interested and qualified, it wouldn't hurt to give them a shot now that these two are out. As long as they give us quality, though, please hire the best person for the job.
Right. Exactly. And again, as far as as far as like Benioff and Weiss go, and that brings us back to that whole conversation again, they didn't deserve the job in the first place. It has nothing to do with the color or their sex or anything like that. It's just like all these fuckers working on Discovery. And
none of those people deserve their job either.
None of these people are qualified. They've hardly done anything or done anything remotely that gives them the right to step in and do these kind of, same thing with Star Wars. What in the world gives Rian Johnson the right to step in and do a Star Wars movie?
Kathleen Kennedy thought he was cute, and he said she had a nice butt.
Well, you should know his face looks just like it.
Exactly.
So.
Damn it, now you piss me off!
I know this bothers you too, Rob.
Say something, Rob.
What bothers me?
Everything bothers you. You gripe about everything.
He's probably watching sports ball.
Yeah, he probably is.
Google it, Moogle.
Oh, it's porno, not sports ball.
Oh, put the garbage down. Yeah, get more.
All right. Well, okay. I don't want to spend any more brain power thinking about Mary Chivo.
Hey, you got a super chat.
Oh my God! How many people produced this show? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
They added a
7,
buttload
8,
more.
9,
They're up
10,
to like
11,
in the
12,
60s
13,
now.
14, 15, 16, 17,
Go to
18.
IMDb. I think it's up to like 61 now.
I'm trying to. All right, let me screen share. There's so many.
Matt G, what do you guys think of the best is the best film remake ever, non-comic book? In this endless world of remakes and reboots, I don't know.
Oh, best remake ever?
What is that? Mecha Star Trek.
Those are the producers, and I think they're up to like 61 now. Last time I checked, for this next season included. God,
47 here. For this is just 47.
Yeah, they added like another 20 this next season, I think.
Holy crap! Crap on a cracker.
God, that's a good question.
How did you get the 60? Where did you find the 60?
I seen it somewhere where it was 61 now with all the new ones for this third season added in or something like that.
But that doesn't surprise me. All it means to be a producer on Discovery is basically just means you signed a petition saying SJW politics are awesome. That's all it means.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't want to talk over the super chat. Sorry.
Yeah. So
we haven't even answered the super chat yet. Best non-comic book remake. My favorite remake does not exist in the version that I like, so I can't really say. But Scarface is a good one, yeah.
I'm gonna go with
The Thing was good, yeah.
You stole my thunder. I was thinking about The Thing. So since you
said
The Thing,
Questor said it too.
Yeah, I'll say The Fly.
Fly is very good, yes.
Goldblum Fly, I really liked.
And what's the through line through all three of those movies we just mentioned? They bear very little resemblance to the original film. They just have something in common with them, and that's about it. Otherwise, they're other than The Thing, which is a little bit closer, but the rest of them are.
I'll say this: this is one that's not. It's a remake, but it's television. Battlestar Galactica. Love the Battlestar.
Oh yeah, that was good.
So there's a good one that's more up my wheelhouse as far as sci-fi. And you're right. It doesn't. If you're going to do a remake of something, what you need to do is really capture the essence of what made it great, not just do a carbon copy. Because like worst remake of all time, I would say Psycho. Right.
Well, yeah, but you know why he did that now, and I actually respect Gus Van Sant for doing that. Did you hear about that?
No.
He did that so nobody else would ever do it again.
Okay, fair enough. Mission accomplished, I suppose.
He did it, and I see what he means by it. He's like, he did it shot for shot, beat for beat, everything exactly the same, so nobody could come in and put their own spin on Hitchcock's Psycho.
But here's the thing: is that if you're going to remake something,
it was meant to fail. Yeah.
Don't just clone it. Say this is what it could have been.
Right, and that's where there's a video in my main pick, and that would be Willard. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that movie at all.
Yeah, with the rats. But...
Yeah, they did a remake with what's his face? Who played George McFly? Crispin Glover. Mm-hmm. And the original cut of that movie is the most brilliant remake I've ever seen in my life. Now, when it got to theaters, they cut it down to PG-13 and changed the ending. So, like, this test audience ruined what could have been one of the greatest remakes and best examples of a remake of all time, because the first original Willard is a good story told in a really horrible tone and really cheesy, but when they updated the version that we got with Crispin Glover was tone perfect, got everything that was great about the original movie, brought it into the new one, and was an awesome horror movie, and they fucked it up. So, yeah. Anyway.
I think the only good remake out there, like for movies that I can remember, was probably Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
That was mentioned earlier too. There's been a couple of those
17 times.
Yeah, and not just as a remake, but it's also been just ripped off.
Ripped off. Yeah, completely done.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some good ones. Don't get me wrong, but the ones we mentioned are probably the best of the best. Yeah, I'm sure there's a good few we're missing, but sometimes the better ones are ones we don't even know they are because they were like, like a lot of people don't realize that, like for instance, or Magnificent Seven, I was going to say, is actually a remake of the Seven Samurai, for instance.
Or my personal favorite, Battle Beyond the Stars. I love that movie. As cheesy as it is, I love that movie. Anybody's got the gall to put a spaceship with tits, I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, Rob's got to take a piss.
Well, thank you for letting us know.
Can we say Major League is just a remake of Slapshot?
Is it though?
It's the same, pretty much the same exact movie.
Well, I would say they're in the same genre, but I don't know if they're the same exact movie. And maybe I'm biased because I really, really love Major League, but
Team Donut's Luck, a bunch of stiff players.
That was not just. You could say the same thing about it. Bad News Bears too, as far as that goes. Then.
Yeah, Built to Lose. I mean, they're all the same movie, really.
Yeah,
Built to Lose.
They're just Animal House with sports.
Yeah. What are the chances of the test audiences being from the Hollywood elite? 0, because test audiences are usually at theme parks during the day. They advertise movie.
Yeah, it's usually like 13, 15 to whatever age groups. And they're generally people who don't really give a shit about movies. And they go in because it's a free fucking movie. They don't even know what it is half time, and they don't care. And then you're telling them to judge something. So, oh boy, and you know how people love to judge shit. Well, we do it for a living, right? So, I mean, come on. But I mean, point being, those with, especially if they're uninformed, I guess, uninformed judgments. And they ruin movies. There's been so many great movies that have been fucked up by test audiences. The list goes on, and we could be here all night and really make Rob wait. But
like, I think the key to what you were saying there, as far as the problem with test audience, is that generally speaking, if you were in a test audience, you don't know what the movie is until it starts, and that's a big problem because you need to find, like, if you're going to do a test audience for a superhero film, you should find people that love superhero films to be your test audience, not just random people who may not care for the genre. And because if I don't give a crap, like if they brought me in as a test audience member for the latest version of Pride and Prejudice, it could be the best version of Pride and Prejudice ever made. I'm going to say it sucked because it doesn't interest me.
Somebody brought up Fright Night. I did not like the remake.
Yeah, I think the original Fright Night was better.
It was. See, that's the other problem is you never want to remake something that was done right the first fucking time.
Yes.
Ghostbusters, Fright Night.
Remake a movie
Citizen Kane.
Improve remaking it.
Unless you have the rarity like King Kong type movies where they benefit from the updates because of technology. Those are the only exceptions in my opinion.
Well, that's why I think of like one that I still would love to see is Last Starfighter.
Well, they are supposed to be doing an update or a reboot or a sequel or something, a rebootquel, whatever of that. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know how far along that is. So, but we'll keep you posted on that if we hear any more too, because we're all fans of that one. And that's when Rob and I and we've all said too that even if you remade it, that one's okay to remake because it just didn't get to live up to its potential.
Right.
That's the perfect example. Something that didn't quite get to live up to its potential to begin with. That's. And sometimes you miss, look at Tron.
And it hints at a deeper lore, a deeper.
Right.
Deeper
See, Tron should have been something that could have took off, but I don't know if it was just that many years too early again or too late again or something that it was all about the timing with Tron, it seems like to me, because both movies are good, especially the first one. I think the first one's a very underrated film.
Actually, I think honestly, because I rewatched it a couple of years ago, I think the original Tron is actually a little overrated. But I like Tron Legacy, except for the ending was pure cheese.
Yeah, there's some convoluted shit in both. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But I liked the simplicity of the story, and I think Tron was one of the few movies in that era to really recapture what Star Wars kind of did, but it just didn't get its I don't know, something about it just at the time. I don't know.
I think if Tron Legacy had a good ending, that would have been a freaking awesome movie.
Oh yeah, I agree. But anyway, we need to get going so Rob can pee. Because
Rob,
just find a cup.
Yeah.
Chaloja.
He's like, no, I got a number 2. Come on, no.
No, he's got to finish recording your videos for you guys.
I know. That's actually the truth. Is I'm gonna be editing all night and day tomorrow. I'm sure to get this damn Terminator video done.
I don't think this is gonna get done by tonight, but I'll see what I can do.
Do your best anyway.
All right, everybody. We'd like to thank Anti-Trekker for being here.
Hey guys, thank you for allowing me on Wednesday nights. I always have a blast. Don't forget to come on over to the Anti-Trekker channel, subscribe, give me all your money, because unlike the rest of these people on this panel, I don't have 75 million subscribers. I desperately need you to come over and support me so that I can do this full time and show these guys how it's done.
I wish I had 75,000
I wish I did too.
Let alone million.
Mecca, I'd like to thank Mecca Random.
What are you thinking me for? What'd I do? I have a new video out.
Just for being here.
Yeah, if you want to hear me rip into Laurel.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I'll rip into her.
Well, now you do it.
And now I turn it on.
Yeah. All right. Let's get out of here before Rob.
All right, everybody, like, subscribe, do all the stuff here on the main channel, and we will
catch you next time.
I am hungry over.
Ben Shakira.